Yeah. Hello, my name is Brian, ethics presentation. So the overview, just the content overview we're going to go over is first, we're just going to give introductions. We're going to talk about just what a social model is and what a market model is, and then the benefits, some case studies, and the shortcomings that it both comes along, that it comes along with, and then we're just going to conclude it all with a conclusion. So my introduction, like I said, I'm Brian Kwok, and I'm a student at Carnegie Mellon University, and I believe that the market model is the better model.
And hello, my name is Justin. I'm also a student at Carnegie Mellon University, and I think that the social model is better.
So just to start it off, the market model, in case nobody knows, is a type of design model where economic factors are key, right? Directly influencing architectural designs and design outcomes. This means that it considers factors like just client budgets, material costs, competition, and just the overall demand for like different styles of like a building.
The social model is a design model for the public good, and it focuses on designing for marginalized communities and marginalized groups, which includes people who are blind, people who have disabilities, and people in the global South community as well.
So just quickly talking about the benefits of the market model. First, it gives financial sustainability, meaning that it generates a ton of profit because it allows for people to have more jobs because there are just overall more houses that are built compared to the social model, right? And this means that there's more opportunity for people to work. And secondly, it's consumers centered designs, meaning that the reason why it's so pricey but so worth it is because each building is shaped by what the client or the person wants, thus increasing overall satisfaction in the final product, right? This could mean like a more open floor plan or like more luxury finishes, yada, 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 right? Anything that they want, it's always going to be there for them. And then lastly is going to be there's an ability to adapt to trends quicker because there's just so much different, I guess, firms, architecture firms that are having like competition between each other. They want to get on the trend quicker, right? They want to get on what's popular and what's not. So whatever's popular, they're always going to try to do it, like get on it quicker, meaning that culturally, like technologically, like just lifestyle wise, they're always going to be to whatever's new. And then so for my first case study, this is actually a case study against market models. I wanted to bring in some like opposing sides and converse and like talks and like kind of just counter them in my next one. So first they say that the reason why they go against market model is because it excludes sustainability, meaning that it's just not sustainable. It devalues like low energy buildings and it just doesn't give like just office workers just good enough. Like it's not sustainable for them. And then secondly, it also breaks user design connection, meaning that designs are like shaped by investors and market logics rather than the actual persons and the people inside them and what their needs are. So it reduces how the building serves for the people. So just to go over like counter that with another case study that I got is firstly this case study from Wales in the UK or in London is talking about green certifications, meaning that these like the other one said it doesn't have sustainability. This case study actually brings in that that sustainability, meaning that these buildings have higher like rents and occupancy rates because they're so energy efficient. And the second counter is just countering the user design connection. In this building right here, in this model, it actually the markets kind of value how the buildings serve the people. So it actually prioritizes the health, the comfort, and the well-being of these people. And then so some of two of my shortcomings that I thought about and came up with are first exclusionary, meaning that it prioritizes more like it prioritizes consumers and neglects kind of like the marginalized groups, meaning kind of like the quote or I guess the saying the rich get richer as they benefit from more houses being made. And then the second shortcoming that I thought of is just homogenization is like just global like places or skylines, they all look alike, right? That's kind of what it means. It means that all these skyscrapers in the end, it just looks alike. So it doesn't really have a nice design or a friendly design over like local culture. So that's everything for the market model.
And so for the social model, we actually have four benefits of why this model is better. I believe that it provides more inclusive design. It's more environmentally sustainable, and it also creates innovation And it also includes people from all different backgrounds, and it brings them into the conversation when it comes to designing buildings. So the social model actually prioritizes access and fairness and justice. So uh, like I mentioned before, the social model prioritizes the marginalized groups. So, for example, ramps and tactile surfaces for the blind are actually really important in their wayfinding for these groups. And so I feel like this inclusivity improves the quality of life. Um, and so another key point is the environmental sustainability part, where we actually seek long-term balance. We want to use sustainable materials and we want to reduce waste. And we want to plan for buildings that are long-lasting and not something that is built really quickly for profit and then thrown away. And so one example for that is also tying back to this idea of adaptive reuse. It's this idea that we are going to take these old buildings and old sites that actually mean a lot to the community, and um, we renovate them and we create something very sustainable with that site, and that increases the community value. Um, and yeah, and so for the innovation, um, a lot of times a social model doesn't generate as much money as a market model, and so designers are always pushing to find more resourceful solutions for these issues. So one example would be the Gando primary school, where obviously in Africa you can't get all the expensive concrete to the site, and so they use a lot of locally made bricks, and then they use a very small amount of cement. And so I feel like that's like innovation at its finest, where they use local materials instead of using these really expensive materials that are usually used for these big high rises for maximum profit. And it also includes all of the different groups that I talked about into the design process. And so one really good example would be the library parks in Spain, where they're cultural and community centers for everyone in the area. And it also included the community in the design process. And I feel like that's really important in design because at the end of the day, it's not the market, it's not the investors that are using the space, it's the community that's using the space. And so another example, another case study would be the Quinta Monroy housing, where obviously there's an argument that the market model favors investors and it favors people because people actually want to live there because it's personalized. But I have a really good argument that the social model actually provides the exact same thing, where we can give them a very easy and cheap housing, but they can personalize it to the way they want. So the top part would be just a blank canvas for the people to live in. But then on the bottom, you can see that they personalize the space for their own. And so it's kind of like pushing back on this idea that the market model cares more about the tenants when in reality, the social model can do the same thing. So some shortcomings for the social model is obviously funding issues. I definitely do think that without the idea of profit, investors wouldn't want to invest in the project. But I just want to say that a lot of these projects don't generate immediate profit, but they actually help with the community as a whole and in the long run. And it also, there's a market resistance, especially in the U.S. In a more capitalistic economy. I feel like this model struggles to survive in a profit-dominated economy where people want to create as much units as possible and want to rent as much as possible. But I feel like this is just like the start because you want the community to live in a place where they actually want to live, where there's amenities for them to live, and I feel like that's really important. And so, as a conclusion, for these reasons, we believe that the social model is a stronger framework for building a just and sustainable future and ensuring that architecture fulfills its ethical responsibility to both the people and the planet. Thank you.
And these are also some of our like bibliographies that we have cited and used. Thank you.